냠제 전부도 유미종 또는 전부가 자다 다그러 다른 전도 실문도 또만 제자라기 숑잘.
To liberate sentient beings, please generate the supreme bodhicitta before we start today's teaching.
Now let's begin the Lotus Sutra, Saddharma Pundarika Sutra lesson.
Tirkci soradan jondandi jizedan damba sharival andirkci kwapsarto sharival hadamji binjikten dadaki uddamji ba changba damji ba gevjong dam jamze damji bi jegimdan kyodo mubra shago kyoti kongda chibra shago sharival nge kyodo sanji shia chapchu ya tongchak nishi zhongda lamna me bayang da bar zogba shangchib da yongser membra shibarte sharival kyodo rangbo ne Kyodo Rambo ne ngayir jisir lopra jirwa yende shariwa kyodo shangchib sanhui mangagdam shangchib sanhui sanchin ji ngi songrabnda le jibir jirdo shariwa ndartar kyodo shangchib sanhui shenlab ji shungun jib shio badang molamdam shangchib sanhui mangagdam shangchib sanhui sanchin machan ne mnyang lende so nyamda semde shariwa ngi kyoji shungun ji shio badang molamdam ishi kongda jibir chambar shavran doba de tambi choba makarbo chujir namjang Dorde Shinder Gibachimbo, Shangchib Sanhua Namla Damba, Sanji Tamchiki Yonsu Zongwanda, Nyantur Namla Yang, Takbar Tondo, Shariva, Kyundartar Maumatina, Hukarawa, Hue, Samji Mekepa, Hodmepa, Devjin Sherba, Shiva Chakchu, Gerton Mambu, Tambi Chu, Zonjang, Chubar number Natso Shi, the Shangchib Sanhui Shoban, Dada Yonsu, Zobra Shi, Devjin Sherba Jambayon, Dr. Zoba Sanji, Ribatan Jas, Damba, Dever Shabanjitin Timber, and the Kalobir, Lana Mepal Hadamar Namji Tomba Sanji Jondan de Pabmi Gucci, Shavan Jitindam, Joran Guru, Sharive, Tzena, Devjin Sherbat, Jondan de Devjin Sherba. Patmi Gutti, Sanji Jiang, Dermeba Jishavra Tirdem, Nyamba Gava Shava, Duba Yons, Tagba, Jorva, Arjeba Deva, Lolaba Madan La Mambo, Rapta Kanwaj, Benjre, Yexedirkepe, Moon, Maris, Tribadan, Moon, Riz taken the Rumboche, Jiang, Tabarian, Gender Rumboche, Navdanti Metodan, Jevadan Damberto, Shariva, Devjan Sabat Jambayan, Toporzuba Sanji. Pabmi Gutti, Tagba Sumle, Zamte, Churton de Zayan, Sheriva Devjan Sherbe, Karvi, Ningmala, Mumjong, Moti, Wonjang, Hunji, Molamji, Wang, Churtumber Girdo, Sheriva Karvati, Mayang, Rumbochi, Chimbu, Gambaji, Girdo, Sheriva and Derta, Yam the same. Chief Sherna Karvati, Rumbochi, Chimbi, Gambaji, Shazena, Sheriva, Sanji, Jantan of Jansuan, Namna, Rumbochi, Chimbo, Sharte, Tzena, Tidin, and Jitinji, come Termepa, Teda Hod Mepa, John the Mepa, Samji Mekiba, Janwa, Deba, Mambo, Shonte, Division Soba, Janwana, Hto, Division Sharpe, Janwana, Marto, Division Soba, John, Marto, Divisher, the Karachimbo, Rumbochi, Gembe, Jisha, War, Sherivan, Dartaya, Tzena, Jansu Sanwa, Sanji, Jantena. Partir Rumboche, Pamir Tane, Kumber, Dorjan, Rojan, Jerde, Jansu Sanwa, Jonwa, Tetarna, Le Tambo, Mayente, Kivisava, in Rambo, Shabate, Lorton, Mambo, Tamber, Shobate, Division Sherbe, Yons, Toba, Sanji, Ishi, Zomba, Mombershiba, Chimbu, Yons, Janwale, Keba, Chuji, Sertam Chelam Keba, Nienbadan, Jambadan, Dambate, Rigiva, Partiva, Jansu Sanwa, Tavi, Sanji, Jantena, Yons, Convertirdo, Sherivan, Darter, Division Sherba, Miguti. Satna Goti Tsatna John Kirba Maktober, Varti Karva, Churnis Kurto, Varti Karva, Churnis Kurto, Semchente, Sadna, Varti Karva, Vieto Kurto, Sheriva Division Sabapa Miguti, Varti Karva, Churni, Debada, Gerlon, Janjo Senhua Chimbo, Mubar Zobandani, Urto, Laname Payanta, Zoba, Shanchip, the Mumbers over San Diava, Division Sabat, Bayanta, Zoba Santi, Rigbad and Jazz Number, Devils of Anjitin, Pimerti, and the Kalo Laname. Murnam Girton Basan Jipjum de Padmi Kimchok, Pami Kimjo, number on Bajisha and Jitin de Shung, Egyptian to Sanhua. Chimbo, Mubar Zobab, and Bayan, Dr. Zoba Shanchip, the long tan neons and young Lendeber Girdo, Sherry, Divisions of Papa Kimcho, number of Numbati, Santi, Yan, number theatre and Rimber Girdo, Yan, Sherry, Divisions of Papa Miguti, Yonsum, young Lendeber, Verti, Carvasum Chersan is a Tambi Chumcho, Girdo, Verti, Carvasum Chersan is a Tambi Chu years, Yana, neighbor Girdo, Tene, Jordan de Gitse, the Tse, Nats, Japan, the sardo mauntina shariva kyoda kyan ka rjarwa tevjang bara yam jongwaran jirde pa migu chipshavara kanda shaba dang chokso shiva tongchong nambandarwa dang santi shiyam nga wa kwarto she ternab shobar toba rabzhiva ner tobchewe da ngumbar kye she de shanchu dambam chokdyang tobaran jeda tsadme samgi meti fkarwa na di tse fkarwa ranchina maangbo mjong jirten maayang tse rdarme par kanyi sowo zhang nar nambara ta benri yayi tevjin sajji yo xir jirkit pe susur rapta gyan metom jewa gyan zhang tanar de ranchin zhongshang gyan dang raptar dang chantam shangchu sanhua te maang sho ba ngombar zhevla ramke zhang ganga santi gyale shurla ba te dang santi zhang ter kyewaran gyara te yi tami tiji tse Joni Leila Shin de Nikir Ne do par number Pani Mumber John Shanju San Huan Chuk Jong Tober Ger Tena Gera Ti Tsetsen Varti Karab Jini Tsangor Ger Tena Me Te Tak Tsetsen Varti Karab Get Tober Ger Gera Tena Nyang Debe Yang Varti Karab Simch Ni Tsang Var Larjin Jiten Namla Pambi Shir Te Tsena Tambi Chune So Tambi Chune Bat Zuni Yang Varti Karab Samcho Nis Ne Skobate Irkordon Jejerde Hadam Meir Tagdan Roshine Jondan de Tirtrim Jongerji Shariva Kyo Raptor Gavriti Zirji Magnor Kani Sovorte Tirtir Kirvate Na Kyonian Tene Gerlondan Gerlonmadan Gevnyan Ma Kur Jibote Tagdan Hadan Lodan Nojendan Trizadan Hamayandan Kardan Magamchadan Toshi Chimbodan Modan Mumayr Namba Tsedan Damba Shari Tsedan Damba Lanami Bayan Doboshan Tsedan Damba Shari Lanami Bayan Doboshan Chipton Umberzoba Son Giver Long Tamban de Jordan de la Munsum de Tune Tsimjan Mgowa Yiran de Raptor Gane Gawatan Yideverti de Ranranga Jordan de Jirkala Sordo Ranranga Ku Ranranga Ku Jordan de Jirkala Sordo Le Wambo Gapshin da Mamji Dagbo Tsangba dan Le Wagjan Shiva Jaston Gijan Jordan de Jirkala Li Namza Dag Sordo Li Metok Mandara dan Mandara Chimbo Tagdam Ngumbrok Torzo Stanga Warnang la Li Ku Tagjan Kun Li Sirnyen Yarton dan Nga Tagjan Stanga Warnang Don de Metok Cherchimboyam Ngumbra Pabne Tsigndurkud Jordan de Jirngun Yerwaranas Changchong Hongwa Ridak Naksar de Chujin Korlo Korde Tandaryang Jordan de Laname Chujin Korlo Kordo Jirmeni Laiva Ternamji Tsigsibjaba Dadak Sordo Waranasin Jirten Na Somet Gangda Hwachingi Pombor Kinchi Pombor Kinchi Tombai Chujin Korlo Rapkurde Ndan Tokmar Rapta Kur Jembe Ndatak Lani de Yichik Kayang Ganglag de Namjin Kyuji Devsha Do Jirten Gumbu Shangar Dagzak Chumang Tuni Yang Dendri Bayi Chuna Ngunchen Matu Mantong Zang Zhangzhong Chimbu Dim La Huao Ji Huao Dagzak Ji Rong Hayin Jingmen Shari Pagban da long term jin tenjab da jikten da lamed sangye tripkir ne Gonde Shapa Sangye Ji Shanchip Meston Shanchip Lamed Tomber Jikten da dang Jandag da Zoba Sangye Nyamgi de Nivgi de Dagchak Giva Chipgi ba Shanchip da yang Mumber Shanchip da yang Mumber Show Donansi Pombor Tienchi Chujin Kurlu Rafkurte Ten Tomarapta Kurun Rembe Ndatan Lani Ichi Kawa Kanlat Namja Chuchi Teshan Rembe Ndatan Lani de Ichi Kawa Kama Jiten Gumbu Shan Arab Dakchak Chumatuni Jum Dunjaba Ye Chunar Ngunchin Na Yang Matus Kandun Shumbendem Kuho Dajocha
Next, we will carefully continue our detailed study with the very important third chapter of the Sacred Lotus Sutra text together. The third and very important chapter is specifically called the parable chapter indeed. Yesterday evening we already thoroughly covered some earlier part of the third chapter. Shariputra truly and greatly rejoiced. The Buddha, with his profound, compassionate wisdom, also graciously gave sacred predictions to the assembled multitude of Śrāvakas, those diligent, faithful disciples, saying that they too would undoubtedly attain the supreme state of perfect Buddhahood in the future. Today we will meticulously continue our exploration with the detailed prose section. At this particular time, the Buddha told his esteemed disciple, Shariputra, "Today, in the esteemed and sacred presence of devas, humans, Shramanas, Brahmins, and a vast multitude of many, many other diverse sentient and conscious beings, I am solemnly and truthfully telling all of you, gathered among this truly great, magnificent, and profoundly significant assembly, that a very long time ago, after diligently and extensively passing through the profound teachings and enlightened existences of 20 trillion enlightened Buddhas, I have already, for the sake of the unsurpassed and ultimate path, indeed taught and transformed you, Shariputra, there." Here, in some of the various commentaries, their methods of explanation and interpretation differ quite subtly and significantly. But the meaning is this: today, among so many sentient beings, I am telling you directly and unequivocally, in the past I have already passed through 20 trillion Buddhas, an incredibly vast, truly immense and profoundly significant number. In the sacred and profound presence of so many enlightened Buddhas, it was truly destined for you, Shariputra, to ultimately attain the supreme and perfect enlightenment. That is precisely why I have consistently and diligently used the profound Dharma to meticulously teach and carefully guide you, Shariputra, along this spiritual path. And you too have faithfully followed and earnestly studied with me through countless and very long nights, dedicating yourself to this profound journey. You were not someone who relied on me today and then stopped relying on me tomorrow, nor did you just follow me devoutly for 2 or 3 years and then depart after a certain period of time. It was not like that at all. Instead, it was intended to be for a very extended and enduring duration. The Buddha explicitly stated, "I have also, for your benefit and spiritual development, diligently cultivated and received profound teachings within the vast and innumerable Buddha lands of so many enlightened Buddhas under their compassionate guidance and instructions." Perhaps they have also been like this for lifetime after lifetime. When we read the treatise on the White Lotus, we see the Buddha with Shariputra, the Buddha with Venerable Kashyapa, and the Buddha with Manjushri Bodhisattva. These kinds of karmic connections are truly extraordinary. For this particular reason, it is indeed quite often said that I have also been with you, not just for 1 or 2 lifetimes, nor was it just for a short period of time, but for an extended and significant duration, truly a considerable amount of time. But for lifetime after lifetime, I have guided you through the Mahayana Dharma, so you too should cultivate a truly unwavering faith and always diligently follow me in your dedicated practice and profound study. At that significant time, I employed highly skillful means, as we precisely say in Tibetan. I utilized certain essential and profound key instructions derived directly from the vast Mahayana Bodhisattva path, as well as some truly secret and powerful teachings and methods originating from the great Dharma. You could even call them great secrets, to truly benefit and ever guide you with these methods. And you have always remained throughout my teachings, never truly separated from me, lifetime after lifetime, throughout all ages. The profound process of guiding or interacting with each other is certainly not limited to just one single lifetime. Instead, it should be understood as a continuous journey, perpetually continuing through lifetime after lifetime, an eternal cycle. Shariputra, in the distant past, I also bestowed my blessings and guidance upon you. In Tibetan, there is indeed the profound meaning of bestowing blessings, and your aspirations, your sincere seeking of the Dharma, and your sacred vows, as well as your practice of the Mahayana Bodhisattva path. I have already given you unique blessings and made special efforts for all of these. But now you have completely forgotten all of this. Throughout countless past lifetimes, I have consistently encouraged you to practice the noble Bodhisattva path. I encouraged you to make vows, to practice the wondrous path of the Mahayana, and so on. But now you have completely and utterly forgotten all these past actions. Moreover, you even truly believe that through your own diligent efforts in study and practice, you have attained the supreme fruit of arhatship. You have always thought this way yourself, without any doubt. The Buddha told Shariputra, "Today I still want to very gently remind you, so that you can truly recall what kinds of vows you once made, what kinds of bodhisattva practices you engaged in, and what kind of aspiration for the path you had. These things I find it truly necessary to remind you of today so that you can readily recall them. In order to help you remember these important principles, I want to emphasize them. Today I will expound for you the assembly of Śrāvakas, the teachings that are protected and cherished by all Buddhas, and that all Bodhisattvas need to teach and transform others with, namely the Mahayana Lotus Sutra, Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. As for these other terms, they should be considered as modifiers or adverbials. In Tibetan, this is a bit easier to understand. In other words, I find it necessary to remind you today to help you recall every single intricate detail from your past lives, so that you may fully awaken and understand. I am expounding to you through the Mahayana Lotus Sutra, Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. What kind of Mahayana Lotus Sutra is like? It is an exceptionally supreme scripture that teaches and transforms Mahayana Bodhisattvas. It is also constantly protected and cherished by all Buddhas of the 3 times, day and night, at all 6 periods. Such an exceptionally supreme Mahayana, the Lotus Sutra, Saddharma Pundarika Sutra. That is why today I am using this method. Actually, among all those present here indeed, many of you have also once generated the Mahayana Bodhicitta. Or perhaps you possess some truly inconceivably profound and deeply rooted aspirations that are directed toward the vast and all-encompassing Mahayana Dharma, and so forth. However, if there is absolutely no spiritual Dharma connection present to serve as a reminder or to link you back to these profound teachings, you may not necessarily be able to recall it yourself or even remember it. I would like, based on some of the teachings from the earlier Lotus Sutra, Saddharma Pundarika Sutra, many of us present here should also be closely connected with the Mahayana Dharma through such extraordinary karmic ties. However, before you encountered the Dharma, many of your virtuous aspirations were probably already hidden within the alaya consciousness. They had not yet been brought forth. But through expounding the teachings, through making extraordinary aspirations, and through various different causes and conditions, we can do the same. The Buddha and Shariputra had such a karmic connection. In fact, for us as well, including now as we are studying, we are also creating a karmic connection with the Buddha and Shariputra. Every spiritual teacher and every devoted disciple, different wise teachers, have different profound karmic connections established over many lifetimes. Just like in the sacred King Ajatashatru Sutra text, among the countless Buddhas, as numerous as the sands of the Ganges, King Ajatashatru could not be liberated by any of them, but only Manjushri Bodhisattva was able to liberate him. None of the others could do it. So sometimes we often say, even all the Buddhas of the 3 times are unable to tame certain beings, and it is only when one's own root guru compassionately accepts them that one is fortunate enough to encounter the true Dharma due to their karmic connection, and after truly diligently practicing within this specific teaching, one may come to recognize the true nature of their own mind. Such cases do exist. Therefore, here, through the causes and conditions of the dialogue between Shariputra and the Buddha, we can also, in different eras, gain valuable insights and understanding, see the reflection of every practitioner in ourselves. In the process of relying upon one's own spiritual guru, this is actually not necessarily a mere coincidence. It should be truly attributable to various causes and conditions from previous and many past lives. Some of our Dharma friends feel that every guru is quite good and commendable, and this guru has shown great kindness in the Dharma, while that guru has very benevolent to me, and that Dharma friend has treated me well. And this Kenpo is also fine, and that Kenmo is also fine. Some devoted people are exactly like this always, but for some others, after carefully listening to the profound Dharma teachings, they unfortunately seem to burn all bridges after crossing the river safely, and even say all sorts of things. Some of our esteemed Kenpos and Kenmos, when it comes to training people nowadays, have already been doing so for 10 to 20 years, almost 30 years now. Maybe not quite 30 years, but during this process, they may have encountered good listeners and not so good listeners of the Dharma. Some, when they first arrive, are especially well behaved, extremely so. But gradually, as they gain a certain bit of reputation, a significant amount of influence and a bit of money, they eventually and actively start to promote themselves. In the end, they turn into all sorts of things. Some people, even if they have already truly surpassed their own wisdom and abilities, still always remember to be deeply grateful to those who have given them Dharma kindness in the past. Whether it's their teachers, Kenpos or Kenmos, they all know how to be grateful and repay kindness. This is something truly and remarkably good indeed. For example, some of our Kenpos and Kenmos, when the time comes, maybe their age is already about the same. They may not necessarily have any reputation or fame, but perhaps the highly skilled individuals we have meticulously trained and nurtured have already become truly world-renowned figures. They should be exceptionally capable and possess remarkable expertise. At that particular time, some of those individuals from before, perhaps, will also be recognized for their significant contributions. including when you first arrived and didn't understand anything. You joined a certain class, and at that particular time you were still, especially, and very much so, unable to even explain the homage verse of the 37 practices of a Bodhisattva. But now it seems you've also become a counselor. They've become Kenpos and Kenmos and don't even pay attention anymore. I think after saying this, many of you Dharma teachers might think, oh yes, in the class that I was actively counseling, it was indeed this particular person. When they first arrived, they were so pitiful. They didn't even have a proper place to stay. In the very end, I continued helping them all along the way. Now, even the precise way this particular person walks is noticeably different. Some people, when they arrived, brought a whole group of disciples and were especially arrogant. There are those like that too. There are also some who, in spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings in all aspects, are extremely grateful and very responsible. So whether we are spreading the Dharma and benefiting beings, or in the process of guiding fellow practitioners with whom we have a karmic connection, there are always different situations and circumstances that we encounter. In fact, we should all cultivate and maintain an attitude of profound gratitude and deep appreciation. I firmly believe that this sense of gratitude and appreciation is something fundamental that people should never ever lack in any given situation. Next, it says, Shariputra, in your future lives, through countless, boundless, inconceivable kalpas, you will still need to make offerings to many, many more of them. Countless hundreds of millions of Buddhas, an extremely great number, and uphold the true and authentic Dharma. You will fully practice the profound Bodhisattva path, which is indeed the path walked by all enlightened Bodhisattvas. After this significant event, at that very time, the Buddha began to bestow predictions. The Buddha gave predictions to the Śrāvaka vehicle and also gave many extensive predictions to the Mahayana Bodhisattvas. Śrāvakas like Shariputra also received predictions. Once you have developed such a mind of the path, you will be able to attain Buddhahood in the future. That Buddha's name is the revered Huaguang Tathagata, and this Huaguang Tathagata has already attained all the 10 sacred titles of a Tathagata. That is to say, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly enlightened one, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well gone, knower of the world, supreme being, tamer of men, teacher of gods and humans, Buddha, world-honored one. These are the revered and profound epithets attributed to the enlightened one. Last year I had the truly memorable experience of visiting a Gelugpa monastery, a place of deep spiritual devotion. During my visit, when they were reverently chanting praises to the Buddha, the chant leader was I sat beside him quietly watching him the whole time. He didn't look at me at all during the entire long time. He was devotedly reciting the 10 sacred titles of the blessed Tathagata very respectfully. Actually, the experienced senior chant leader also has this kind of special devoted practice. As for the 10 sacred titles of the Tathagata, due to time constraints today, I won't go into them in detail here. In actual fact, there is indeed a specific text which is known as the Sutra on the 10 titles of the Buddha. It was translated by Tian Shizai at the time. I read it before. It explains inside, for example, supreme profoundly means that among all people he is truly incomparable, utterly beyond comparison. There is a detailed explanation for each and every one of the Buddha's sacred titles. Generally, the translations by Tian Shizai are a bit harder to understand. For example, entering the Bodhisattva path. His excellent scholarly translation is called The Sutra of Bodhi Practice. He was a devoted, learned Shramana from ancient India, truly remarkable indeed. When he first came to China, it should have been during the famous Song dynasty period. That was around the year 980 AD. The Song dynasty seems to have officially started in 960 AD, right? He was also especially highly respected by the ruling emperor in the entire Han region. He also successfully established a prestigious translation institute for sacred Buddhist sutras. In fact, within the Chinese Buddhist Tripitaka, there are so many translations. Most of them were done by Indian Shramanas or people from other places. As for us in Tibet, when it comes to the translation of the Tripitaka and treatises, some of our local Tibetan translators would go to India and they would assist in the process. The main translators were local Tibetans who took the lead. But in the Han region, it seems that many of the translators, except for Xuanzang and a very few others, the majority were translators who came from India or other places. At that time, Tian Shizai translated many texts, including the Mahayana Jewel Ornament Sutra. The other day, I received a transmission of the Mahayana Sublime Treasure King Sutra. At that time, I compared the Tibetan and Chinese versions. They matched exactly word for word. In the future, if I have the opportunity, I would really like to teach it. There is a lot discussed in that text. about the profound spiritual merits of the sacred mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum Shi. In Vimalamitra's Treasury of Wish-Fulfilling Jewels, when talking about hearing Dharma, it said that merits of the Mahayana Treasure King Sutra are great. At that time, after I saw this statement, I looked it up in the Tripitaka and received the Tibetan transmission of the Mahayana Treasure King Sutra. At that time, I used the Chinese translation by Tian Shizai to compare. When comparing them, there was not one word different from the Tibetan version. For example, with the Lotus Sutra, comparing it with the Tibetan version, the general meaning is the same. In some places, the Tibetan is a bit easier to understand, while in other places, the Chinese is a bit easier to understand. There are slight discrepancies within the text, but compared to some other texts, it is not a perfect match. So, if it's convenient for you, and also truly know the 10 sacred titles of the blessed Tathagata completely well. In the precious sutra of the Buddha's 10 titles, this is also clearly explained in great detail thoroughly. Next, it says that the Buddha prophesied that the wise Shariputra would become the Tathagata Wagwang in the distant future. The name of his pure Buddha land is called the world free of defilement. The entire land is extremely level and even. This represents that our minds have no sense of superiority or inferiority, no arrogance or lowliness, nothing like that. Moreover, the land is extremely pure and magnificent. There, peace and wealth are both abundant. People there live extremely, incredibly, and profoundly happy lives. There are many celestial devas and numerous human beings residing in that beautiful land. The very ground itself is exquisitely made of brilliant lapis lazuli. In the middle of this magnificent setting, there are 8 distinct and unique kinds, just like some of our very own streets and thoroughfares today. Actually, these 8 distinct kinds of paths truly represent the 8 noble paths. There are 8 distinct kinds of paths, and the clear boundaries between each individual path and its corresponding realm are distinctly marked with shimmering golden ropes, meticulously placed on both sides of these significant roads. Furthermore, within the ancient and sacred Tibetan texts, there are detailed descriptions of all kinds of exquisite necklaces and various ornate ornaments. Golden threads are beautifully adorned with various exquisite necklaces and elegant half-necklaces. The distinct boundaries between the streets are very clearly and precisely separated, and directly beside them are the magnificent 7 jeweled trees, each one representing the 7 precious treasures of the noble ones. These remarkable trees exist and flourish in all 4 distinct seasons: the vibrant spring, the warm summer, the bountiful autumn, and the serene winter. These magnificent trees bloom with an abundance of flowers of various vibrant colors and are heavily laden with delicious ripe fruit. What kind of profound dharma does the Tathagata radiant light teach in this world? The teachings of the 3 vehicles, indeed. He uses the teachings of the 3 vehicles to liberate countless sentient beings. The Buddha told Shariputra, "At that precise moment you will be born into such a world, the previously mentioned world free from all defilement, a realm of pure existence. Although it is not an evil world at that time, because of your original vows and aspirations, you will teach the Dharma of the 3 vehicles." As for our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, because the land at that time was extremely wild and harsh, he also made vows among such sentient beings. But in this case, actually, this land should be very pure and magnificent. The inherent faculties of the sentient beings to be taught are also quite good. However, because of the immense power of your vows, originally you diligently practiced the Bodhisattva precepts for 60 kalpas, but later, in the middle, you unfortunately lost your bodhicitta and took a break for a period of time. Afterwards, you became enlightened again and gave rise to the great bodhicitta of the Mahayana. At that time, you once again made vows to benefit sentient beings through the 3 vehicles. At that time, you might have also felt that the Śrāvakayana was still indispensable. If you were to teach only the profound Mahayana directly, it would be a little bit overwhelming for many individuals. Have some personal experience with this matter, right? This is the 3 multiplications teaching system indeed very clearly. The kalpa at that particular ancient time was actually called the Great Treasures and Splendor Kalpa period. The kalpa we are all living in right now is currently called the present kalpa of virtue, right? Why is it called the Great Treasure Auspicious Tribulation? This is because most of the bodhisattvas residing in this sacred land are indeed called Dabao. Dabao is truly a revered Rinpoche. Our revered Rinpoche, a highly esteemed spiritual teacher and leader, holds a profound and central position within our community, embodying wisdom and guidance. In Taiwan, people also frequently like to talk about the revered Rinpoche as spiritual leader. Some people often pronounce it as Yinboki, a unique pronunciation. This precious treasure, often referred to as the wish-fulfilling jewel, a sacred and potent symbol, is none other than Rinpoche, a revered and enlightened spiritual master. all the venerable bodhisattvas present here are indeed rinpoches. Now, in the vast Han regions, there are also an especially significant number of rinpoches. These bodhisattvas are countless, boundless, inconceivable, and extremely numerous. They say there is a street in Beijing with 300,000 rinpoches, but that doesn't really count as a lot of rinpoches. When there are truly many rinpoches, it's inconceivable, limitless, and boundless. So, at that particular time, even professional journalists might have been feeling very afraid and apprehensive. If you try to count the number, there's no way to measure it with any analogy. Except for the Buddha's wisdom, truly no one else can indeed know or comprehend this. The Buddha's wisdom definitely knows. Everything is clear in the Buddha's mind. He knows exactly how many rinpoches are truly on that street indeed. So even in some of our cities now, aside from some national security officials who KO how many rinpoches there are, no one else can truly know this profound truth completely. So unless it's the Buddha's divine intelligence, no one else can possibly know. When these great rinpoches walk gracefully, they are actually walking on beautiful lotus flowers. This is due to the immense power of their pure aspirations and their accumulated merit. Basically, they all have these special characteristics clearly evident. Moreover, these advanced bodhisattvas are certainly not mere beginners who have just recently generated bodhicitta. They have already generated authentic Mahayana bodhicitta for a very long time. For those who are just starting out, their initial motivation might be a bit better, but it may not be very stable. It's like for us, monastics. If we engage in long-term dedicated study, deep contemplation, and consistent practice, it's completely different. This also applies to our own personal practice. Whether or not we've completed the preliminary practices, sometimes it's quite apparent. If someone has truly completed both the common and uncommon preliminaries, their mindset is different. For example, rarity of human birth, impermanence of life, suffering of samsara. After practicing these, a person's character and mindset become completely different from those who are just starting out. There's a big difference between newly generated and long-maintained bodhicitta. There is still a significant distinction. For those who are just starting out, although on the surface they seem more willing to benefit sentient beings and are more enthusiastic, they are indeed willing to take on any and all responsibility themselves. But after some time, when they encounter even a small issue, before they even say a single word, tears are already streaming profusely down their face. This is because during the profound process of generating bodhicitta, they inevitably encounter certain significant things. It is like facing adverse conditions once again, or running into unexpected obstacles again. So those individuals who are just beginning their journey often find themselves saying, "I have encountered challenging and adverse conditions once again." However, those who are not mere beginners, and who have for a considerably long period of time been diligently accumulating profound merit and assiduously gathering abundant spiritual resources, standing reverently in front of countless, truly innumerable and enlightened Buddhas, have already meticulously practiced pure precepts and maintained strict celibacy, and have even received sincere and heartfelt praise from these most venerable Buddhas. For some bodhisattvas who have maintained their aspiration for a long time, they have indeed already been praised by all the Buddhas of the 10 directions. Moreover, they themselves frequently cultivate the wisdom of the Buddha and possess immense miraculous powers to benefit sentient beings. They are truly able to skillfully understand the profound and true nature of all phenomena. Their character is truly honest and without any deceit whatsoever. They are exceptionally upright, possessing absolutely no hypocritical behavior or pretense. Furthermore, their unwavering resolve and profound determination are incredibly firm and steadfast. In fact, all true great bodhisattvas are precisely like this, embodying these noble qualities. Whether in character or personality, they are extremely upright. They have never, at any point in time, engaged in any form of fraud or deception, nor do they possess any intention whatsoever to mislead or confuse others. Moreover, their own personal mindset is also very steadfast and unwavering. It's not like, "Today I absolutely will never ever regress," or "I swear I vow before the 3 jewels." But after a while, all the grand promises they had made all turned out to be like fleeting patterns on the water's surface, disappearing completely without a single trace. It's not like that at all. True, great bodhisattvas are also very much like this. Genuine practitioners are the same way. A true practitioner in daily life, whatever they have promised, for example, some people here make a commitment for a year or for 3 years. You can see it very clearly during the entire process of all the operations. Some people, not to mention a year has 360 days. It's not that easy to get through. Before even a month has passed out of those 360 days, they start to lose confidence. Because someone bullied me, because I can't stand it, because I'm not getting enough to eat for this or that reason. There are countless reasons, and all the commitments that they had previously made are now completely abandoned, even though this is just a worldly aspiration. From this kind of worldly aspiration, we can still clearly see the enduring strength of our collective resolve. Why is it then that in the profound, the treatise on the modes of being, it specifically emphasizes the crucial importance of steadfast vows? For Mahayana Buddhists, this is also absolutely essential. Look closely at the Bodhisattvas right here in this sacred place. They are all truly upright and honorable people, and their resolve is exceptionally firm and unwavering. If such Bodhisattvas fill this land, how wonderful that would be. In that case, governing would also be far easier. The Buddha told the great Shariputra that the lifespan of the Buddha Huaguang is indeed 12 small kalpas, a truly immense period of time, except for the time when he was a prince before becoming a Buddha. That is to say, clearly, when he was still on the causal ground initially, he was a royal prince. And at that particularly significant time, he first generated bodhicitta, but that specific period is not counted here. As for the rest, the extensive time he remained in this world, continuing his compassionate activities tirelessly, should refer to the period after attaining Buddhahood, 12 small kalpas. Here, the average lifespan of people is 8 small kalpas. Generally speaking, in this particular context, the Buddha's lifespan is remarkably long, while the lifespans of sentient beings are relatively quite short. Some sutras also mention this. For example, in the specific case of a master and disciple, if the disciple's lifespan is indeed longer and the master's lifespan is shorter, this is related to the disciple's considerable merit. If the disciple truly has very considerable merit indeed, then his master's lifespan will be even longer than his own, perhaps extending for a very significant period. It seems that here the sentient being's accumulated merit is also quite good and substantial. After Huaguang Tathagata has passed through a period of 12 small kalpas, a considerable span of time, there will then emerge a bodhisattva who will be named Jianman, who will receive the profound and auspicious prophecy of attaining Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, which is the supreme and perfect enlightenment. He will then solemnly tell the assembly of bhikshus that the venerable bodhisattva Jianman will indeed be the designated successor of the illustrious Huaguang Tathagata, becoming the very next Buddha after him in this lineage. His future and glorious Buddha name will be known as Huazu Angsing. Tathagata Arhat Samyak Sambuddha. Actually, in the rich and profound Tibetan tradition, it's just like the 10 epithets of the Tathagata we previously mentioned. Tathagata, worthy of offerings, perfectly and completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, and so forth. Well gone, knower of the world, and so on, Samyak Sambuddha. The Tathagata Buddha name that was just mentioned refers to the previous one, the Buddha of the past. The disciple who was just mentioned, Bodhisattva Jianman, will eventually become this very Tathagata, attaining perfect enlightenment. His Buddha land, the pure realm where he will reside, will also be precisely the same, just like the previous one, in its characteristics and splendor. The Buddha told Shariputra that after Huaguang Buddha enters nirvana, the true Dharma will remain in the world for 32 small kalpas, and then the semblance of the true Dharma will also continue to remain for a full period of approximately 32 small kalpas. The duration of the Buddha Dharma's presence in the world also varies too. I saw in the Chronicle of the Buddhas and Patriarchs, or perhaps somewhere else, it clearly states that, and the entire complete duration of Shakyamuni Buddha's precious sacred Dharma remaining in this world, which, let me think, it should be is broadly divided into the distinct periods of firm liberation, firm meditation, and also, actually, it's traditionally divided into 5 distinct periods quite clearly. The very first period is firm liberation, which lasts exactly 500 years total. The second 500 years period is specifically called firm meditation. The third 500 years is firm hearing or learning, a period of profound and deep understanding. The fourth distinct period is specifically called firm merit and virtue traditionally, or it's alternatively known as the firm semblance Dharma teachings period. The last 500 years is truly the age of the degenerate Dharma, a period characterized by strife and contention. This means that at first, during the period of firm liberation, spiritual liberation was attained relatively quickly. In the second 500 years, meditation was notably easy to accomplish. The third significant period is the era of the teachings, meaning that listening attentively and learning diligently were highly valued and emphasized. In the fourth 500 years, everyone focused on making Buddha statues and accumulating merit. There was abundant merit, but the practices of listening, contemplation, and cultivation had disappeared. In the final 500 years of the Buddha's Dharma, there is only contention and strife. As Buddhists, the mutual strife is intense and persistent. Even the slightest issue gets spread all over the internet, and among people, rumors and gossip also spread quickly. Apart from contention, there is basically very little listening, contemplation, and practice, the three trainings, in such an era. This is the case in Chinese Buddhism in general as well, and it is quite similar in Tibetan Buddhism as well, and this holds true. Of course, even in the period of firm true Dharma, there were such statements in the past. For example, when women become ordained, it is often said that the Buddha's teachings are thereby reduced by 500 years. But actually, this specific concern is addressed within the great Abhidharma Vibhasha Shastra. It does not mean that all of the teachings are reduced by 500 years. It only refers to the period of the true Dharma. Originally, the period of the true Dharma was 1,000 years. There are two versions of this. The great Abhidharma Vibhasha Shastra has 200 volumes, and this is mentioned in volume 183. This is found in the version previously translated by Tang Xuanzang. So, how exactly is it clearly explained in there specifically? In fact, there are actually two different answers given traditionally here. One particular answer is that some learned people strongly believe it has a very profound meaning related to steadfast liberation. So they say that 500 years are reduced. There is such a view. There are also others who believe that actually this was truly based upon the prevailing national conditions and the unique customs of India at that particular time. The Buddha required women to observe the 8 revered rules. If the 8 revered rules were not observed, then in fact 500 years would be reduced. After the 8 revered rules were observed, this issue did not arise again. Most truly wise people today strongly believe this is exactly how it should actually be done. In fact, the ordination of women definitely did not shorten the Buddha's precious teaching period at all whatsoever. Moreover, the ordination of women was actually just a matter of the customs in India at that time. There was a national law of male superiority and female inferiority. It was simply a tradition they had. In fact, under the teachings of any other Buddha, as we also know, whether it's the Amitabha Sutra or other sutras, there are bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas. So in these texts, it is never stated that if bhikkhunis are ordained, it would be detrimental to the Buddha's pure land, or that it would be detrimental to any Buddha's pure land. There is no such statement. Therefore, in the 21st century, many women should hold their heads high. There is no need to. Nowadays, there is a very popular saying that half of the entire world's power rightfully belongs to women. Half of all the people on earth are women, and half are men naturally. So, in such a modern, progressive era today, some of the Buddha's teachings and more indeed contain skillful means as well as profound and hidden meanings. Therefore, it is essential that we should be adept at understanding precisely how to interpret them. Everyone should truly know and comprehend why things were expressed in that particular way at that specific time. If it hadn't been said that way back then, what kind of situation would the Buddha have faced? If, under the Buddha's teachings, men and women were to be treated completely equally, how would the countries at that time have viewed it? And what was the historical context of other religions at that time? What was the historical background back then? If we study this very aspect, we'll understand precisely why the Buddha spoke in that particular way at that specific time. Moreover, women themselves also possess some truly unique individual characteristics. For these significant reasons, the precepts for men and women are indeed different. Even in present-day Theravada Buddhism, some of the more conservative monks, when it comes to women's ordination and receiving precepts, I've encountered some Theravada Buddhists myself, and comparatively speaking, our Tibetan Buddhism is much more open. Sometimes in Theravada Buddhism, they can be especially strict in their interpretations, and in many aspects they hold different views. But here we should all be very much aware of this. Now that I think of it regarding the teachings and the duration of the Dharma, I've also encountered some issues in the past. We'd better take a look at the great Abhidharma Vibhasa Shastra. As for the great Abhidharma Vibhasa Shastra, later on, in Kashmir and among many Panditas, some say it was compiled by 500 arhats, while others say there were many more. It was around the 600th year after the Buddha's parinirvana. For the Śrāvakayana, this treatise should be considered the most reliable one. This treatise can be used as a reference. There are also various other related scriptures that have different explanations. We should therefore explain it in this particular way. I sincerely hope that some of our devoted Dharma friends will carefully study these important issues. How should we properly study? And how can we truly understand the Buddha's most profound intent? Next, there is this fundamental principle here. At that time, the world-honored one taught using sacred verses. Shariputra, in the future you will certainly attain Buddhahood. You will possess the profound wisdom of the Venerable One of universal wisdom, the all-encompassing wisdom of all-knowing. Your Buddha name will be, as mentioned earlier, Flower Radiance Tathagata. You will liberate countless, truly boundless sentient beings. Of course, before that you must make offerings to countless, truly boundless Buddhas and enlightened ones. You must also fully cultivate the Bodhisattva practices of the Mahayana. In the end, you will possess the 10 powers and the 18 unique qualities, as well as perfect physical marks and other virtues. You will realize the unsurpassed wondrous path. You will definitely attain the supreme unsurpassed wisdom. After countless eons have passed, your eon will be called Great Jeweled Adornment. The name of this new world will truly be stainless. This stainless world is pure, without any defilement or pollution. Its ground is made of lapis lazuli, and golden cords clearly mark its boundaries. Rows of trees made of the 7 precious substances gracefully line both sides. There are always extremely abundant, beautiful flowers and perfectly ripe fruits, with fruit hanging heavily from the strong tree branches. All the bodhisattvas in this blessed country are precious enlightened rinpoches. These realized rinpoches are not scattered in mind or suffering whatsoever. They are not the kind of rinpoches who are always eager to make money or go begging for alms every day. They are not like that. Those rinpoches should possess faith and compassion. Their main purpose is to liberate sentient beings. Their resolve is also extremely firm. They also have the miraculous powers and perfections to benefit sentient beings. Many rinpoches, not to mention miraculous powers, don't even understand some basic Buddhist principles. They simply do not fully understand worldly principles, nor do they truly comprehend Buddhist teachings. It's just that some of us, you see, are not aware of these profound truths, and called rinpoches in various ways. Now, in our Tibetan region, there really are some lay people who are illiterate and have no education at all. Some of them may not even have a primary school education. Some people have already become quite like that naturally now. Maybe some of their true intentions are quite clear indeed, but I don't really dare to say openly here. It's not particularly good to say too much about it specifically today. As for having genuine miraculous powers, actually, the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra says, if a bodhisattva is far from miraculous powers, they cannot skillfully teach the Dharma according to the wishes of sentient beings. If a bodhisattva does not have miraculous powers, they cannot teach the Dharma according to the wishes of sentient beings. If a bodhisattva possesses miraculous powers, then they can directly expound the teachings and liberate countless sentient beings according to their wishes. So at a certain point, miraculous powers for benefiting sentient beings become very important. Of course, there are also many other kinds of miraculous powers, whether it's flying high in the sky or various other extraordinary and miraculous abilities, including the ability to discover hidden treasures. Some of these claims are real, while others are undoubtedly fake. It's often quite hard to definitively say. All these noble bodhisattvas possess the profound paramita of miraculous powers to greatly benefit all sentient beings. Moreover, they have already skillfully and diligently practiced the bodhisattva path before countless enlightened Buddhas. Such great beings can be said to be manifestations of Buddha Huaguang. For Buddha Huaguang, it's very easy. His entire land is filled with great bodhisattvas, and each of these great bodhisattvas is quite obedient. Their qualities are all quite high. In every aspect, they are not so, because there are still significant differences in people's qualities. If a person's qualities are relatively good, even though sometimes they might indeed have some rather eccentric and unique tempers, or perhaps some quite stubborn and unyielding personalities, as long as you really just point it out a little bit, people have self-awareness and they will. But if a person's overall quality is extremely, extremely low, if they have no education and no knowledge of Buddhism, if they even lack the most basic human decency at all, it would be extremely exhausting to have to educate each and every one of them. So even Buddha Huaguang might sometimes feel a certain sense of aversion, perhaps even a slight feeling of displeasure. But fortunately, his pure and sacred land is truly and entirely filled with many revered rinpoches who are spiritual teachers and enlightened beings. Rinpoche literally means precious one, as I clearly mentioned earlier today before, and it is exactly like that indeed. Back in the year 1993, when His Holiness made his significant visit to Taiwan, there is a lay practitioner in Taiwan said, I do not know what his Khenpos means here, don't really understand much. Are you a Rinpoche? He asked me, are you a Rinpoche? I said, I'm not a Rinpoche, I'm a Khenpo. Oh, then I don't understand what a Khenpo is. Khenpo, I don't know what that means. We have a great many Rinpoches present here. You should consider changing your title from Khenpo to Rinpoche. In that way, many more people will come to you to seek teachings. That is precisely how it was at that time. Now they probably understand a little bit more. So, as for the significant term Rinpoche, there are indeed different and distinct titles that are commonly used. The Karmapa, for example, treasure means wish-fulfilling jewel. His Holiness, this truly significant title nowadays, actually sometimes our revered guru, the wish-fulfilling jewel, indeed once said, if you address him as wish-fulfilling jewel, he should indeed bring each and every disciple the very same benefit as a wish-fulfilling jewel. At the time I didn't really understand, but later on I felt that it was indeed actually true. Anyone who addressed the guru as wish-fulfilling jewel, including among the disciples of our His Holiness, many who referred to the guru as wish-fulfilling jewel, people like this, later on, in their actual practice, seemed to be quite distinctly different from others. Perhaps the very origin of this particular title also inherently carries a certain unique and significant distinction. That's precisely how it is. At that specific time, when the Buddha was a young prince living within the royal palace, it should have been Buddha Huaguang just now. He gave up his own kingdom and renounced all the worldly glory and wealth. In the very end, he left home and ultimately attained perfect Buddhahood completely indeed. You see clearly, this is also someone who became a truly devoted monk while still a young noble prince, actually. This includes great patriarch Bodhidharma, revered Master Shantideva, and precious Guru Padmasambhava historically. Many other great accomplished masters and practitioners all left home as princes. The Buddha also spoke about this very important teaching in the Maharatnakuta Sutra. The Maharatnakuta Sutra, a significant and profound Buddhist scripture, clearly states, while living as a householder, one cannot truly attain unsurpassed enlightenment. Only by leaving home and diligently practicing renunciation can one ultimately achieve Bodhi, which is perfect wisdom and awakening. Yesterday, in front of the friends who ordained here, I also mentioned this. If one truly wants to practice seriously today, of course, it is definitely best to become a devoted monk ultimately. Many of the worldly restraints, pressures, and restrictions are already completely gone then. As ordinary lay people, there are many daily inconveniences and sufferings indeed. Of course, if we consider things in the long run, actually there are also conveniences and favorable conditions for practice as a layperson. Nowadays, some people become monks for the sake of their own happiness and personal well-being. Actually, this is very inappropriate. In the past, the Venerable Master Yingguang also said in his teachings that if one ordains out of selfishness and self-interest, the situation was certainly not good, and he absolutely did not approve of it. He firmly believed that first and foremost, one must possess the profound bodhicitta of truly benefiting both oneself and all others in order to properly ordain. Second, he strongly felt that one should possess a natural disposition and a sense of responsibility to benefit sentient beings. If you have these two qualities, then it is acceptable. So for many of us who wish to become monks, why do you want to ordain? Because life at home is too troublesome, too exhausting. But if you're just tired, you don't necessarily have to become a monk. You can simply find a place to rest properly. If you become a monk just because you're tired, actually, monastic life is even more tiring. Whether it's eating or observing precepts, monks have their own challenges. Becoming a monk is truly not about escaping or seeking any worldly enjoyment. If you truly want to escape from your current reality because you're feeling especially tired and under too much significant pressure in your daily life, so you ultimately decide to become a monk. A lot of movies from the 70s and 80s also had this kind of thinking. When people have absolutely nowhere else to turn, they often start seriously thinking about ordaining. They then go to a temple and typically stay for about 2 or 3 days. And when all the right conditions come together, they leave again. This is really not good. One should not become a monk just because they're tired or life is hard, or because they can't manage or can't even afford to eat. If you really have no other way out, this kind of ordination is a group of individuals who ordain in this particular manner is also quite problematic indeed. Monastics should guide humans and gods, benefiting themselves and others. Moreover, monastics should not be selfish. This is especially true for Mahayana monastics. If you are a monastic of the Śrāvakayana, it's enough to have the mind of renunciation. But for Mahayana monastics, not only must you have renunciation, you must also have bodhicitta. If you have bodhicitta, but if you just want to sleep in every single day, then even the monastery itself won't want you at all. Those who can't get up in the morning in the monastery, because now in monasteries you have to chant scriptures at 4 a.m. If some monastics are especially lazy, they can't stay in any monastery. So when we ordain, we should become more and more diligent, help more and more sentient beings, and become increasingly able to practice austerities, and more engaged in study, contemplation, and practice, such dedicated monastics. Yesterday, I spoke to those who were newly ordained and shared with my views and suggestions in 5 areas. I don't know if they remembered or not, but many people after hearing don't write it down. When it comes to truly listening to teachings, to genuine instructions, every single sentence, even if you only attend 1 class a day, if you write down these important points, it might have some real significance. So what exactly did I talk about? Ordination. The Buddha Huaguang, a truly enlightened one, remained in this world for a full 12 small kalpas, an incredibly long period of time. The lifespan of the people in his country was 8 small kalpas. After the Buddha entered parinirvana, the true Dharma remained in the world for 32 small kalpas. He liberated so many sentient beings. After the true Dharma completely disappeared, the semblance Dharma lasted for another 32 kalpas. At that time, his relics were spread throughout the world. Humans and celestial beings all made offerings to them. The actions and deeds of Buddha Huaguang were actually just like this. He should be the one honored for both wisdom and merit, the most honored among humans. His actions and his work in spreading the Dharma and benefiting beings are also unparalleled in the world. But this person, don't think of someone else, Shariputra. It is you yourself. You should truly, indeed, rejoice. And then Shariputra says, it's truly me. So it really is. Buddha, you are so incredibly compassionate. I'm so immensely happy. Today I should really enjoy a good and satisfying hot pot. After Shariputra received this significant prediction, the complete fourfold assembly present at that significant time included the venerable bhikshus, the respected bhikshunis, the devout upasakas, and the dedicated upasikas. Furthermore, this grand gathering also encompassed celestial devas, powerful nagas, formidable yakshas, melodious gandharvas, mighty asuras, majestic garudas, and the graceful kinnaras, the great mahoragas, and all these other diverse beings, each contributing to the profound presence. When they saw Shariputra, the Buddha began to bestow the prediction of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, unsurpassed, perfect enlightenment. Everyone was joy. On one hand, after Shariputra received the prediction, everyone was very happy, because there was no jealousy within their group. Otherwise, if there had been jealousy, they might have thought, why did the Buddha give the prediction to Shariputra today? Why not me? Then no one would have been truly happy. But in fact, that was not the actual case in this situation. This is different from the mentality people have nowadays. Sometimes I think the mentality of people today is necessary. Volunteers, khenpos, kenmos, and dharma teachers really deserve praise, but people don't dare to praise them. Because once you praise someone, a few people might be happy, but that's only a small number. Most people will think, why? He's not that great. Actually, he has a lot of faults. I've noticed them. Today they're praising him, but this person actually has so many issues. I already know all about them. We might have this attitude now. Back then it wasn't like this. You see, when they saw Shariputra, after the Buddha gave him a prediction, everyone was extremely joyful, their hearts filled with boundless delight. Each and every person carefully took off the clothes they were wearing at that moment, including devout bhikshunis, lay upasakas, and lay upasikas followers. At that particular time, they respectfully took off their upper garments and then offered them to the Buddha as a sign of deep reverence. Actually, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, in one of his books, Brilliant Moon, or another book I read it last year, in the book it mentioned that in the 1980s, he once went into a deep retreat to practice his spiritual discipline. He was specifically practicing the profound yoga of Heruka. From that significant time onwards, he basically never wore anything on his upper body at all. This included instances such as when we journeyed to New Delhi, India in the year 1990 and paid due respects to Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. At that particular time, I thought it was probably because the capital city of India was indeed extremely hot. I thought the Lama was just feeling too hot. He had previously spent a long time in Tibet, so maybe now he couldn't stand the heat anymore. But later, in his extensive biography, it clearly states that actually it wasn't just in India. He also came to Tibet several times afterwards. And at that time, for the majority of the time, he consistently chose not to wear any upper garments either. Some of his devoted disciples, observing this, respectfully advised him to consider putting on a shirt or perhaps a shawl. In response, it is recounted that he replied, "If you continue to insist on this particular matter, then I will proceed to take off my lower garments as well." After that incident, the disciples didn't dare say anything more at all. Maybe every single Lama is quite different indeed. At the time, I didn't really know either, honestly. Back then, he had many precious things around his neck, like some sacred prayer beads from his own revered teachers, and also a statue of Manjushri from Mipham Rinpoche, and some blessed objects from Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. Basically, any Dizi beads or images of Manjushri, he would always show them to us and give us his blessings with them. But in this particular regard, as specifically mentioned in his detailed biography, he wore some distinctive Bompo-style clothing and also bone ornaments. And the origin of this should be like this. Even the intricate Vajra bell and scepter adorning his ring possessed a truly unique and significant origin. Originally, His Holiness, much like the vast majority of other monastics, did not wear any rings at all. But there was one particular time, a magnificent diamond. He also wore it for some very special tantric reasons. In his much later years, His Holiness also frequently wore various rings. Some monastics might not truly understand why the situation was precisely like this, but in actual fact there are also some profoundly deep tantric meanings hidden behind this. Perhaps these profound insights are far beyond our current human imagination. There are many different forms of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and all of these have quite different origins indeed. Here it clearly says that these devoted people began to respectfully offer their precious clothes to the Buddha. It's not entirely clear exactly how this happened. At that time, Indra, Brahma, and countless celestial beings, they also reverently offered their exquisite garments, as well as fragrant mandara flowers, great mandara flowers, and so on, to the Buddha. At that time, the exquisite celestial garments they scattered floated and gently swirled in the sky, lingering and gracefully circling around. The celestial beings also played different kinds of melodious music, which echoed continuously in the sky. Moreover, these celestial beings also showered down a rain of colorful flowers in all kinds of vibrant colors, a myriad of beautiful hues. At that moment, all the celestial beings were thinking. Previously, when the Buddha was residing in Varanasi, that is to say, the sacred deer park, a significant location, when the Buddha turned the Dharma wheel for the first time in the deer park, it was like this. So today the Buddha has turned it for the second time, that is to say, he has once again turned the wondrous Dharma wheel. They thought that such auspicious signs and such a rising of conditions were extremely rare and precious. Next, let us use this principle to compose a simple verse. At that time, the celestial beings once again took the above content and conveyed it to everyone in the form of a verse. In the past, in the deer park in India, the Buddha turned the Dharma wheel of the Four Noble Truths. He explained in meticulous detail that all phenomena, specifically the five aggregates, inherently possess both birth and eventual death. The term five assemblies precisely refers to these very same five aggregates. He explained in detail that all phenomena, the five aggregates, have birth and death. There is a rising and ceasing. Today, the Buddha has once again turned the unsurpassed, wondrous Dharma wheel. Here, all five aggregates are empty. There is neither arising nor ceasing. He expounded the profound and subtle meaning of the Buddha's teachings in detail. However, some people without true spiritual wisdom always find it extremely hard to believe completely indeed today still. As it is clearly said in the ancient revered 400 verses text actually, For such profound dharma, the foolish are filled with great fear. Such profound dharma teachings easily causes very deep fear in ordinary foolish people quite naturally, unfortunately. Therefore, very few people are truly able to give rise to faith. As for us, regarding these profound and sacred words of the Buddha, since the distant past, we have repeatedly and attentively heard many teachings and profound doctrines from the world-honored one, who is revered by all beings. But we have truly never heard anything as supreme as this ever before. At that time, whether heavenly beings or even Shariputra had already received the prophecy of Buddhahood. He should have been satisfied and had nothing more to say. All the praises that should be given have already been given. All prophecies bestowed and awards received. So nothing more to say. He should just look at his prize and that would be enough. Some Dharma friends, after receiving awards, while some who didn't win feel uncomfortable. Those who did win just keep looking at their prize and say nothing. So Shariputra probably had nothing more to say either. But the heavenly beings said, "We have listened to the Dharma many times before in the presence of the Buddha, but never has a profound teaching been given." Indeed, the Lotus Sutra is truly extraordinary. Everyone present here is the same. We have all, to varying degrees, heard many wondrous teachings before, but this time the teaching is also so exceptional. The Dharma spoken by the world-honored one brings us all great joy. Even the greatly wise Shariputra has received a prophecy today, and our feelings are the same. In the future, we too will surely receive a prophecy without any jealousy in our hearts. Shariputra has already received his prophecy today. We also have great hope today. We belong to the very same spiritual lineage indeed. For example, my important passport application had not been properly processed for a very long time. Later, it was finally successfully processed, and after that fortunate event, a respected Khenpo said, "Then my passport should also be entirely possible too, since the two of us are indeed in the very same class." The heavenly beings and other Śrāvakas then said, "Since Shariputra can truly receive it, then it's quite different from the great Bodhisattvas. It's normal for great Bodhisattvas to receive a prophecy from the Buddha. But today, even someone like Shariputra has received a prophecy. Then we too should be able to become Buddhas. There is hope for us." So they did not give rise to jealousy. Among all beings in the world, one can become the most supreme. We too can become Buddhas. Moreover, throughout the entire world, may we become the most supreme, the most truly extraordinary, wise sages. The Buddha's path is in fact inconceivable. There are all kinds of skillful means to expound it. In the Tibetan version, may we also extensively expound upon the Buddha's profound path using various skillful and appropriate means. It seems that there is a slight, subtle difference in the precise way this is described, and the last two lines are indeed like this, presented in this particular manner. May we always expound the Buddha's sacred path through compassionate, skillful means, effectively. All the precious roots of virtue and accumulated merits, whether in this current life or in other lives, including the great merit of seeing the Buddha, are all dedicated to enabling all sentient beings to attain perfect Buddhahood. In the Tibetan version it says, "All the merits I have accumulated today, as well as the roots of virtue that bring joy to the Buddha, whether in this life or in other lives, are dedicated to the path of Buddhahood." The merit of seeing the Buddha and bringing joy to the Buddha, it seems that in the Tibetan version it is about bringing joy to the Buddha. There is a slight difference. In the future, when you encounter different translations, you can choose for yourselves. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Jupun Sunen Dra
Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye Bandangara Badna Sodargye